So, welcome everybody. Peace and blessings. May the peace and blessings that only the Most High can give be upon all of you. Um, hey Tammy, we're doing the
Assalamu
introduction.
alaikum.
Perfect time.
I've been listening to you guys all this time.
Uh-oh, Swad's in the building. We're ready. We're really ready to get started now. Okay, so for real. So peace and blessings, everybody. Salam alaikum. Welcome. Thank y'all so much for being here, for joining. This is, we've been doing these internet ciphers. It's kind of an ode to the internets and is also just like just referencing how this is a moment to go inner and to create that net and that community. So we're intentionally trying to do that virtually by commissioning artists and to hold space in the way that they do through their talents, through their emotional intelligence, through their ability to connect narratives and connect stories. And so we've done these with visual artists, with comedians, with musicians, vocalists, hip hop artists. So Bismillah. On that note, we start every cipher with a prayer. I just want to open up on the note of gratitude, grateful to the Most High for Wi-Fi, for laptops, for cell phones, for health, the fact that we're all healthy enough to be here. Praise God that we're here. And I also want to lift high in our prayers all the indigenous communities of all the lands that we're on. I know we got Michigan in the house, we got Southside Chicago, what else? We got people, Sister Layla, I don't know where you are, somewhere on the East Coast, but we have Seattle. Okay, so we're all over, and we acknowledge the indigenous people. We know that they persevered through weaponized illness. So just really just holding them high in our prayer and holding them close to us as we kind of navigate this time. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our artist today, who is Miss Tammy McCann. She is an internationally renowned jazz vocalist based in Chicago, and she has just a wealth of experience. You all will get a taste of that yourself today, but I do just want to acknowledge her as the current artist in residence for the Music Institute of Chicago. I know she's also curating series at the DuSable Museum of African American History in Washington Park, and she's literally travels the world, does workshops and performances across the world. Is an active professional artist for decades, and will walk us through the pedagogy that she's developed, and you'll see that the genres that she kind of inspires her work and that she teaches through. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Tammy McCann. Oh, also, I just want to say she has been like a big part of Iman's, what Iman is, and truly like has really shaped a lot of Iman's arts programming and the possibilities for Iman. So give thanks to that, and we're really honored to have you here. So thank you for doing this.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings, everyone. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. I want to thank everybody that's joined us this evening. Thank you for coming to share some time with me. When Sadia called and said, hey, we'd like for you to come and join us and share some insights. And I said, what am I going to talk about? And she said, well, Tammy, just tell your story. So I thought about it and I said, well, there is no me without the ones that came before me. And so with that, I'm going to talk today about Blackness and how it is recognized and expressed through the singing voice. So I thought a lot about this question, how we express our Blackness, and even more so how people respond to it, So first of all, what do I mean by Blackness? What I mean is the cultural underpinnings, the stylings, the telling and retelling of our folklore that we pass along, the smell of a hot comb. It is the tangible and the intangible, only specific to Black vocal production. Now, we all know what it sounds like, and we all recognize it when we hear it. So much so that, some of us when we see individuals that are not of our culture expressing that Black vocality, you know, people feel some kind of way about that. What they call it is, they're prone to call it cultural appropriation. I don't really see it that way. If you look at it like this, if you think about an individual who doesn't happen to be African American, but has chosen to reflect his or her music, this thing that they love so much, that they want so much to only present in the best and highest form, that they've chosen to reflect their music through this cultural style. This to me is the highest form of admiration, not appropriation. So this style of singing, playing, dancing, to them is their highest form of expression. And now the fact that the powers that be choose to put money behind individuals that aren't African American, that happen to sing in African American singing styles, well, that's a whole other conversation altogether. So I guess the question would be, who is really appropriating your culture? I, as an African American person performing African American music, I want to shine a focus on what is reflective of me and of what I know. So if we focus on ourselves, do we honestly feel a societal responsibility because of our Blackness? For myself, I would say yes. I believe we all flow through and grow through those that came before us. And for me, there are 3 distinct paths that I have taken, and 3 distinct guides that helped me along those paths and helped me handle that responsibility of my Blackness, and represented for me how important it is to know who you are, know where you want to go, and know who you want to be. Now, for me, my first love was classical music. I, at the age of 15, sang my first opera, and I was so captivated by this experience that I was thrown into. I had no idea about this world, and one of the things that I noticed immediately was that there were very few people that looked like me in this world. My teacher instilled in me that I had a responsibility. As a little Black girl singing this music, we were to be the best, period. So during this time, I needed a guide. And the muse that spoke to me was Marion Anderson. Marion Anderson, she performed at Carnegie Hall. She was the first African American to sing with the Metropolitan Opera Company, the first African American to sing at the White House. But regardless of all of these events of high esteem and this decade storied career, she's most famous for the performance that she wasn't allowed to give. But luckily for her, had it not been for Eleanor Roosevelt inviting her to sing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, she would not have received that agency, that ability to look on a sea of humanity that recognized her and her Blackness. In the background, you'll hear the music of Anton Dvorak. He was a renowned classical composer who said, and I'm paraphrasing, what is most important is for American music to achieve its highest ability in original music is for it to take note of the music of the Negro song stylings. This can create a foundation for all original music. Now, he said this in the 1800s, and that's why I chose as my reflection of Marian Anderson, a Negro spiritual by the name of Deep River. Marian Anderson was a master of this genre within a genre. And as Dvorak said, she was the foundation of all things for me. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campgrounds. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campgrounds. Oh, don't you want to go to that gospel feast, that promised land where all is peace? Ooh, deep river, Lord, I want to cross over the campground. So that is Deep River of the Negro Spirituals. Thank you guys, thank you so much. At some point in your life, you'll have to decide artistically who you are, especially those of you in the hip hop and R&B fields. What we as people who are mindful of our creator and what we create is completely counter to what is popular right now and what is being funded right now. So you have to make a decision, and you'll have to make several decisions, I believe, along your career. I had that opportunity early in my career to achieve stardom. A big producer in Chicago had taken note of me and had offered me an opportunity to record some music. Everything was lined up. The studio was lined up. The music was lined up. The only thing is that this stardom was attached to a serious lack of clothing. And it's not like it is today. You know, back then, it's not like it is today where, you know, cleavage is the new necklace. You know, I mean, it's just, it's not a big deal. But, you know, back then, you know, the business, and I think even still today, the business does not give second chances. I think especially to women of color, and you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So when you introduce yourself to the world musically, you need to be certain, and that choice isn't going to be easy. A woman known as the Queen of Gospel is the individual that helped me through that time. Her majestic voice is revered throughout the world, and is one of the greatest musical figures of U.S. history. Known as much for her talent as for her conviction. And after being offered hundreds of thousands of dollars to sing secular music, she was very steadfast in her intention that her voice was only for God and for God alone. Through not only her voice, but because of her conviction, she was chosen to be the voice of a movement. So let's think about that. You know, the choices that we make, we think that, you know, they're only reflective of us. We think they only affect, well, how much will I make? They only reflect, well, you know, maybe I can, you know, put this out and maybe my grandmother won't hear it, you know, or maybe, you know, there are these choices that we make. We come to moments in life, we come to crossroads. And so imagine this woman's conviction being set out in front of her, and her conviction and her voice together created a moment for her to be chosen, for her to be elevated, to be the voice of an entire movement. Let that sink in. Let that opportunity, I want you to know that that opportunity presents itself. It presents itself to you. It presents itself to all of us every day. So when your moment comes, when your crossroad comes, and it will come several times throughout your life, will you have the conviction of your character? The song that I've chosen that reflects Mahalia through me is reflective of this journey that the world, especially the music business, is like turbulent seas. And you need a guide. You need somebody to help you wade through that turbulent water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade through the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in white. God's gonna trouble that water. See that band all dressed in red. God's gonna trouble that water. Look over yonder, what did I see? God's gonna trouble that water. There's a band of angels coming after me. God's gonna trouble that water. Oh, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, 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 wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Thank you. You guys are so wonderful. I can't hear you, but I can see your faces and I can see your finger snaps. Thanks so much. So I find myself here. Here I am now. I have my agency that I've gotten from Mahalia Jackson. I'm sorry, from Marion Anderson. I have, I know what I don't want to be, thanks to Mahalia. But what do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I make that choice? I want to be challenged. We want to be comfortable in our own skin, in our Blackness. But more than anything, I know that I want to be a craftsman, a master of my chosen profession. I'm going to say that again, a craftsman. Whatever you do, wherever you go, take that notion with you, that you want to be the best, that you want to study, and that you want to engage every opportunity that you can to master your craft. I want to be the best that I can. I want to push past the naysayers. I want to push past the haters. I want to push past my own self-doubt. I'm going to say that again. You want to push past your own self-doubt. That's what my final muse and guide gave to me. You know, jazz always spoke to me, even though I felt that I could not possibly sing it. I was a classical singer and my voice did not fit. I did not fit. And I was told that over and over again. Somebody's going to tell you, you don't fit. You're not going to work. Your ideas are not hip enough, cool enough. Your style is not what's going to reach people. Had it not been for someone that saw through all of that and they dreamed a bigger dream for me, they challenged me, they pushed me, and I allowed myself to be open to the possibilities. Allow yourself to be open to all of your possibilities. Diversify your goals and your dreams. I would not have met my muse. And that's what I told, that's what I told myself. I would never have found someone who had such a big voice like me, but could be pedal soft, who had to have the same struggles and the same adversaries. But I did find it. They said, you can't do it, to her. They said, you sing gospel, you sing blues, you sing R&B, you can't sing jazz. You're Black. You're a singer. Singers are inconvenient guests on the bandstand. You can't lead a band. But Dinah Washington, through her jazz, would turn all those notions on their head. Through her, I knew my presence was not just necessary, but possible. That I could stand on the bandstand and not demand respect, but gain respect through my craftsmanship. That's how you will engage people. If you are totally focused on your craft, on your art, you will draw people to you. People will be drawn to you, and you will have the opportunity to share your craft. She was reflective of that. She embodies that to me. And she completely embodies the elevation of the art form to me. And this is one song that was, of all of them, the one song that she got a Grammy for, and they told her that she couldn't do that. What a difference a day makes. 24 little hours. Now there's sun and there's flowers. Ooh, where there used to be rain. My yesterdays were blue. But now I'm a part of you, dear. My lonely nights, they're through, dear. Since you said you were mine. Lord, what a difference one day makes. There's a rainbow before me. Stars above can't be stormy. Since that moment of bliss, that thrilling kiss, you know it's heaven when you find romance on your menu. What a difference a day makes, and the difference is you. What a difference a day makes, and the difference is all of you. That is What a Difference a Day Made by Miss Dinah Washington. I mentioned that one of the things that I often experience and that I have seen experienced in panel discussions and in lectures is that the time for Q&A always feels so short. And I wanted very much for you guys to have an opportunity to talk and ask questions about what I've said, about the different genres, about classical music and jazz music and gospel music, and how those things come together, how they connect, and how you may be able to use them in your creative expression, be it music or dance or ceramics, or whatever happens to be your God's gift. I hope that sharing my story just a little bit was able to be reflective of your journeys. There is no you without those that came before you, and you all will be the inspiration for future generations. I want to say that again: everything that you do, there is no practice. There's only performance. There's only presentation. And everything that you do will be an inspiration for future generations. I want to leave you with a question. As you go out into the world with your art, with your music, with your painting, with your dance, do you feel an inner responsibility because of your identity, whatever it happens to be? Continue throughout your journey to ask yourself this question. Ask yourself this question. I would love to take some questions now. Please, there are no silly questions. Anything that you want to ask me, please feel free to ask me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And you all can feel free to unmute yourselves or raise your
Yeah,
hand, and then Aria can help you.
Okay, I'm ready.
There's actually a question in the chat.
Okay.
The question is, what is the difference aesthetically between jazz, blues, and gospel singing?
Wow, really? What is the difference aesthetically between jazz, blues, and gospel singing? Well, let's start with the chicken egg question. What came first? The Negro spiritual. Negro spiritual is the foundation, which gave way to the blues. Blues gave way to jazz and gospel. The father of gospel music being Thomas Dorsey, who is here in Chicago. One of the most amazing things about, I don't know how many of you are from Chicago, but how Chicago is the origin story for many of the African art forms, African American art forms. So foundationally, when you start with the blues, start with the spiritual, or say the field holler, or just the wailing of the expression of our experience, right? And so as our experience grows, as we become free, our experience grows to now we have things that we feel that we can lose, right? So we want to share our story. We have things, we have a sense of ownership. You know, you can't have the blues without a sense of ownership. As a slave, there was no ownership. You were the owned. So now you move to a space where you have things that belong to you, that you covet, and therefore, as is life, that you lose. And so singing that song about that loss of the job, that loss of that love, that loss of that friend, you know, so that opens up into the blues. From the blues, we start to merge the blues scales with the European scales and the instruments that we are getting access to. Now that we have access and we have freedom, right? We have freedom of movement is what we have. So freedom of movement gets us access to certain instrumentation that, you know, we didn't have. So the instrumentation goes from our voice goes from the drum to our voice to the guitar, right? To the horn. And so as the journey continues, then into jazz. And so then jazz opens up for the proficiency of musical scales, bebop, and so on and so forth. So I hope that I was able to answer that really heavy question. I hope that you feel like I answered it. Next one.
Someone asked me to unmute myself. Am I supposed to?
Yes.
Oh, Salam and Tammy.
Alaikum assalam.
So yeah, I guess yes, that did. And I'm sorry, that was a big question. But I was wondering, are they supposed to also sound different? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So that was my point of giving you an example. So the first was classical, the second was gospel, and the third was jazz. And that's why I chose those different genres. So you could listen to my phonics. You can listen to the way that I vocally projected. You could listen to, you know, how I presented each song, and that there is a noted difference in each of the genres, and that's why I chose to share these three realms, genres of music happen to be my story, you know, my journey. So yes.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. I just hope I hope some professor doesn't call me like, you dingbat, that's absolutely wrong. So
Tammy, there's another question in the chat. They said, what is your most recent favorite artist song that you haven't played during this session?
what is my favorite artist, most recent song that what now?
The question was, what is your most recent favorite artist song that you didn't play?
My
It says, what is
so this is a new artist. This is a new artist that's on the scene now that I like. Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
Vincent K. I'm kidding.
No, really, I know the answer to this. Really, I do. Really, I do. You know, as a musician and music educator, I like to look at voices as different, not necessarily bad and good. So the person that I think is really exciting and interesting and experimental and has a really strong, beautiful voice is the young lady from Tank and the Bangers. You guys know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
I think she is just spectacular. I think she's great. And the music is great, and it's imaginative. And, you know, my kids are like, what do you know about Taking the Bangers? I was like, I absolutely do. So I think she's wonderful. She has a solid, beautiful, strong voice and really imaginative in her expression. It's almost like performance art. So, phew, I'm glad I remembered that.
I have a question, but another one came in.
We also have a hand up, so I'm going to unmute the person with their hand up. They wanted to go.
Okay.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, Tammy. You know, I love you and I thank you so much. My question was, with the three genres that you use, would you say that, because I never thought about it until tonight, but that they all really tell a story?
Yes.
Yeah, I never thought about that with classical music. You know, I've been exposed to all music. My mother made me go to the opera, etc., and I didn't appreciate it as a child. But just now, I was like, well, operas, they're like they're stories most of the time.
Exactly, they're absolutely stories. And when you understand, so I sang in Italian, German, French. Wow. And also in some Latin in choral presentation. And so my friends, when I was young, you know, I was 15, and they'd be like, you know, what are you singing that, you know, classical, that's so weird. Like, how do you even get into it? And I said, because it's a story. So once you learn the language, you learn the English part, you know, that there's a story behind it all. And as artists, I want to say to the young artists out there, as artists, it is our job to take the listener on a journey to, especially now in this time of forced seclusion, you know, we are those that mark time and space with our art. We mark time and space with our creativity, right? And people are waiting. They're waiting and they're craving to be whisked away from this experience, right? So yeah, there's a story in classical, there's a story in gospel, there's a story in jazz. Many of these songs has been written over 100 years ago, and the stories are just as relevant today as they were when they were first written. Another question?
Yes, we do have another question. Let me unmute them.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, thank you. So real quick, I attended my first Iman Community Cafe where you were actually singing in Atlanta. And
I'm sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit. Something about you attended a community cafe with Iman?
yes, the one that
Okay.
you performed in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
That was my first one, and I actually wasn't even supposed to go, and I went, and I was very grateful that I did. It was very, very moving.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Yeah, my question though is, did you ever experience any internal conflict singing gospel music being Muslim?
No, because I grew up Christian, and I took my Shahada when I was 34, when I met my husband. And I have always felt, now this is my journey. It's not nobody else's journey, so let me do that disclaimer. The more that I learned about Islam, the more that I learned about Christianity, and then became interested in Judaism, I even more so saw the connection and the theme that ran through all of them. They're the Abrahamic faiths. So my connection is more with God and how I see God working in my life every day. And so I absolutely don't feel a conflict. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of recording a gospel CD. And I'm super excited. I've written a couple of the songs already. And as I said, my experience, my reflection, my walk with God is not necessarily like anyone else's, but I never saw it as a conflict. It's so funny when I told my mom, which is I think she's a main reason why I think this way. I told my mom, and I was very nervous, I'm gonna marry this Muslim man, and I'm going to convert. And she, without even missing a beat, she said, well, honey, anything that brings you closer to God is fine with me. And I just feel like my journey brings me closer to my brothers and sisters in Christianity and Islam, and I see my path in both. So that's just me, real talk, talking about my journey.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Similar, my mom has a similar perspective when it comes to happiness and my happiness, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a journey, and especially when unfortunately you get caught up in, how other people's expression of the religion isn't necessarily yours, and how you wear on your sleeve the actions of certain Muslims. You have to wear on your sleeve the action of certain Christians and certain Jewish individuals, and so forth and so on. So we've all got our bags to carry. So.
We have another question. Rafi, you want to go?
Yeah. All right. Salam alaikum, peace, family.
Salam, brother. How are you?
I'm good. I want to say thank you. I was just sharing with my sister Sadia that her and Benta just really have been inspiring me lately. With their artistic expressions, and I could say with you right now, it's just really pushed me overboard. Like, I'm a student of music as well. I grew up in the church, and in school, I studied music on the college level.
Mm-hmm.
I met Moses Hogan. You definitely, Moses Hogan. He was a music arranger, composer of Negro spirituals.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people who wouldn't know of him, I mean, he was just amazing. Like, so that introduced me from the church to, learning about his arrangements and singing them, and then go to college and study music,
Mm-hmm.
form analysis, counterpoint, and introduced to classical music. So I too sang, classical music, and hip hop, is something that I was exposed to early in my life. But I found myself, over the years, like losing confidence, like that I once had before. I want to ask you, what is it? How do you feel that those moments where you losing it, that drive for it, And if so, can you share with me some things that, you know, you do to tap into and to lift your spirits up to get back to your artistry?
Wow.
When even feeling sometimes inspired, but you know, can you share with me some things that you?
Wow. What an amazing question. My brother, I have to tell you that those moments come, they come like waves throughout your career. And I tell you, I mean, right when you're about to slit your wrist, the phone rings, you're about to get a gig. I'm sorry if that's a bit, you know, heavy, but I tell you, the self-doubt, that's why I put it, you know, I feel like when they say share your story, you know, it's that self-doubt. Your biggest naysayer, your biggest hater is yourself. Constantly in doubt, you know, being a perfectionist, but also a procrastinator. Right? So absolutely, those feelings will come in waves. How do you get yourself back on track? I must be honest with you. The way that I do it is that I have an amazing support system around me, people that really see me. And when I say that, I mean somebody that really sees you, that sees you enough where they know when you're struggling, they know when you're reaching for something and just can't get it, or when you're being, you know, disengaged, or maybe lazy, or procrastinating, or not really living and serving your fullest self, your fullest creative self, right? So it absolutely isn't, I don't talk myself out of it. What happens is I've got work to do. So I have responsibilities. I have concerts that I have to do. I have teaching. Right now, I'm executive director of a band camp in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm curator at large for DuSable Museum of African American History. I'm artist in residence for the Music Institute of Chicago. You know, I sometimes don't even have time, you know, to let that self-doubt creep in, but it does. You know, can I get this just right? Can I get this music just right? You know, just started writing music, you know, or just started sharing the music that I write because I'm terrified. You know, I don't want people to think that it's silly. I mean, it comes in waves, my brother. And so what I can say is when you need somebody to tell you, you got what it takes, when you need somebody to give you a kick in the pants, give me a call and I'll do that for you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have one more question, Alia.
All right, Salam alaikum, Tammy.
Wa alaikum assalam, my dear.
And I hope you guys cannot hear the multiple children screaming in the background. So I'll try to be clear.
I tied mine up.
That was smart. That was smart. So I don't even know how to necessarily phrase this question. I'm trying to make this a question and not more of a comment, but
please share comments as well.
Okay, so my sister and I have been reflecting on this for the last like 10 years or so. And I was appreciative of the framing of this conversation and the way that you started this kind of talking about Blackness and talking about these three genres as a kind of an exploration of your own evolution as a singer and that in your Blackness. And something that we've been thinking about a lot because my sister and I have for a long time been procrastinating on writing various novels. And while we procrastinate, we read a lot. We're voracious readers. But both of the problem with us is that one of the multiple problems is that, we read for escape and we're always trying to find something that's going to make us feel good. And yet we know that when we write, we want to write about our experience as Black women. And how difficult it is to find stories, to find art, to find music that is kind of steeped in that, history and culture. and richness as Black people that is not inextricably tied to pain. And that's the thing that we are always kind of dragged down by, is that, like, dang, can I find something that is not a book, a song, you know, that doesn't move us, but move us to tears, because it is so dreadfully sad, because our histories are so dreadfully sad, and because there's we're just mired in this, you know, these centuries of you know, just of pain. And that, I'm sure that's the case for people, not just Black people, but people that are, you know, across the world that have been just kind of mired in just these histories of intense oppression. So I guess I wonder, when it comes to all of these three genres, especially the kind of gospel and the you know, the jazz and the blues and all those that are, you know, oftentimes about loss, whether that's loss in life, loss in love. I don't know, where's the place for Black joy, you know, for joy, and for how do you, I don't know, how do you tell a story, whether that's in song or in writing or any other genre, that uplifts the kind of the joy.
Wow.
Does that even make sense?
Wow, that is absolutely a question. That is also a commentary. Let me start by saying that you need to be exposed to more music of all genres, because absolutely it is not only reflective of loss and sorrow and lack. As with many genres of music, those stories are there, but there's so many, there are equal as many stories about success and joy and triumph in gospel, in classical, in jazz. Absolutely. As a writer, I'd like to say, with you and your sister, your story is more powerful than you could possibly know. When you read, if you're looking for inspiration, right? You know, so as you're working on your own book, whatever your story happens to be, whether it's the story of your childhood, or it's the story of, you know, why, if you're asking a question, or if you're making a statement, just such as the statement you just made, like, you know, a great title would be, where's all the laughter gone? Where's all the joy gone? You know, this is myself and my sister's reflection of what we see in creatives, of what we see in the arts. You know, that's a great story. That's a great story for a book, because it's something that's already genuine, coming from you, right? It's something that's already authentic. As long as it's authentic and it's your story, believe me, there is someone out there that feels the same way you do, that's gone through the same thing that you do. I think what I would do is ask you to message me and let me give you a listening list for jazz, for blues, for gospel, that will definitely uplift you, will definitely give you joy. And for every moment that we definitely have taken steps back, we take so many steps forward. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And that's honest, that's such a beautiful and profound way to end also. So thank you, Tammy, so much. Thank everybody for participating, for being so engaged, and for you know, having all these great questions. Y'all see what I was talking about, right, in the beginning? So there are more questions though, Tammy. So if it's okay with you, we'll email them to you, and then we can relay that back to the people who have asked.
Absolutely, you guys. And I promise you, I will get those questions answered this week. I promise. Promise.
So I'm really sorry for those who I know wanted to have a little moment with Tammy, but thank y'all for understanding. We do want to honor the sun setting, and for those who are fasting, and for those who want to make that sunset prayer, we want to honor that. So, you know, in closing, I just want to genuinely thank you again for this. I think it was super timely for a lot of us creatives who are on the call. And just given the time, I think you hit it on the nail in saying that the artists are the ones who are capturing this moment, who are inspiring through this moment, You know, we say this regularly on these internet ciphers, but it's the artists it's Netflix that's getting people through this time. It's these IG lives. It's
Yes.
you know, the artists who are making the masks. Shout out to Jamali and you know, so many others, even just on this call right here, who are really just inspiring people through their art. And also for people who are over the age of 60, we're really holding space for our elders, and trying to you know, hold space for our elders. So please share with your elders in your networks and in your families. If you have any more feedback that you want to share, again, we would appreciate if you at Iman Central on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, hashtag Iman Arts, and share that. Tammy, and Tammy also has Instagram as well. So at Tammy McCann Sings, I believe, right?
No, Instagram, Tammy McCann Jazz.
Okay.
See, I need you young people to teach me how to do all this putting and tweeting and Instagram and all this stuff.
I got you. We'll take you through that. But all right, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Much love, and just close on a note of gratitude again for the time that we all shared. We know that we'd be at loss if it wasn't for those of us who inspire us towards righteousness and the truth and patience. I mean, peace, y'all.